Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here. I hope you can hear me okay. Do this if you can't, and we will get this going. I had the pleasure of interviewing Maarten Olthof twice, actually, but yesterday recording for today. And without further ado, I will set this up so you'll be able to watch our conversation. Here goes. Welcome, everyone, to the online, worldwide, earthwide solar cooking forum. Very happy to have with me today Maarten Olthof, broadcasting from the Netherlands, but with a lot of time spent in Nepal and working on solar cooking, distributing solar cookers in the areas where they have been most critical. And I think everyone in the community that wants to promote solar cooking, especially with regard to reducing deforestation, helping people in areas with unsafe drinking water, indoor air smoke. We can learn a lot from what Maarten has learned and implemented with the Vajra Foundation. So welcome, Maarten, and I'll let you take it away because you have a lot of material here to share, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Okay, well, let's start then. Vajra Foundation Holland, I'm the chairman and the founder back in 1997. And even before I started the foundation, I was already interested in solar cooking. I traveled to Nepal very often, mostly with groups for trekkings, and I saw the massive deforestation. And I came across this solution of cooking with the sun. And as an ecologist, I wondered whether this might be a solution to stop the deforestation. And I gave a lot of presentations in Nepal. On the picture, you see a presentation, a demonstration in the center of Kathmandu on the Durga Square, with all kinds of cookers, solar dryers, etc. I also donated cookers in the mountains to villagers, and all of the cookers worked, no doubt about that. But the acceptance was very poor, to my surprise. So why didn't people use them? And it appeared that most of the times the need was simply not high enough. And then secondly, villages have their work, not only villages, but also people in the cities. They work in the daytime, they work the land, they go to office, and they have no possibilities for cooking in the daytime. Apart from that, you have to adjust your cooker every 10 to 30 minutes, depending on the cooker. So it simply is not workable for them. So I got quite frustrated about this, a solution that works but is not accepted. And I decided to visit the third solar cooker conference, International Solar Cooker Conference in Coimbatore in 1997, that is in India. And of course, there are always a lot of presentations and workshops, etc. But I decided to only focus on those projects that have proven to be successful. I came to the conclusion that there are two possible areas. They might seem very logical, but if I saw the number of projects tried in any area, apparently it wasn't that obvious. Well, first of all, areas with extreme scarcity of fuel. It makes sense. And the second one was refugee situations. And in a refugee situation, there is the same thing. So there is overlap. There is scarcity of fuel. But refugees, apart from a lot of disadvantages, they have an advantage, and that is that they have time. So this was very important. Then going to the next slide, Of course, we have to respect the areas that are suitable at all for solar cooking. Not all areas are suitable, or are maybe they are less suitable for solar cooking. So this map gives an image of the concentration of sun rays on the surface of our planet, and the redder or darker the areas, the more sun reaches the surface. And you can see that some countries near the equator, they are less suitable also because there is a tropical rainforest, or at least a tropical climate with showers in the daytime, blocking the sun. So, of course, I checked whether Nepal was in an area with chances, and it appears to be so. If you look, my own country is it right in the middle of the map, the Netherlands, is not suitable at all, which doesn't mean that you can never cook with a solar cooker. I've done it here, but the number of days in the years is very limited. So if I translate the conclusions from that International Solar Cooker Conference, translated to Nepal, I come to two areas. One area is Trans-Himalaya. That means behind north of the Himalaya mountain range, where there is a high altitude desert climate, very dry. This is suitable. And in Nepal, at that time, 1997, there were Bhutanese refugee camps situated in the eastern part of the country, a lot of refugees. And since Trans-Himalaya was far too costly and logistically very complicated for a small foundation like the Vajra Foundation, we decided to focus on refugee situations in eastern Nepal. Here is a map where you can see where there's camps. There were 7 camps in total with about 110,000 Bhutanese refugees. They were concentrated. They were kicked out of Bhutan because of ethnic reasons. And the presence of such a vast refugee community meant an ecological disaster for the area. For obvious reasons, people had to cook and they chopped firewood in the forest, sometimes with big clashes with the locals who wanted the firewood for themselves and wanted to protect the forest. So in 1997, after the conference, I drove to the camps and knocked the door of the UNHCR, Oxfam, Lutheran World Federations, and all those kinds of organizations, and almost begged for the chance to start with a few cookers in one of the camps. And talking about the type of cooker, I tried them all. That means the refugee cooker would seem a very logical option for this situation, made from cardboard. You need a plastic oven bag. On the lower left, you see the box cooker, and then the lower right, the SK14. Well, the refugee cooker was the cheapest, of course, but also very vulnerable, especially in the Nepal climate, with monsoon for a number of months, and one rain shower was enough to destroy the cooker. And you need plastic bags in refugee situations, oven bags, very special bags that do not melt because of the heat. So this was not workable. Then the box cooker was more expensive, not too expensive, but also appeared to be very vulnerable in this particular circumstances. Because of the children, they were playing football, and this the solar box had glass and mirrors, and a lot of them were damaged. And apart from that, they were quite slow. Then the SK14 worked very well, but of course was quite expensive. But here sometimes you have to be a bit clever. Yes, it was more expensive, but it was also very effective. So we decided to try to have several families cook with the same cooker. And by doing so, the SK14 became cheaper than the other options. By the way, on the picture on the lower right, you see my Indian friend Deepak Gadhia, solar guru, who inspired me a lot after I had started this project. And his late wife, Shireen Gadhia. I'm very happy I've been able to know her. Very inspiring woman and a very inspiring couple. On the left is the chairman of our Nepal Foundation, with whom I have been working in the solar cooking projects, and I'm on the right side. 110,000 people, refugees in the camps. That means a lot of cookers and a lot of money. We had to start begging for donations, and apart from that, permission to work in the camps. You're not allowed simply to walk in the camp and do your thing. You need permission from the UNHCR. In this case, we needed permission from the Nepal Red Cross. We needed permission from the Ministry of Domestic Affairs in Nepal. But we did that all, and we built several factories to equip the 7 camps. And what we also did was to let refugees participate in the project. So they themselves constructed the cookers and were present at all stages of the production. Then, very important, a cooker needs a hay box and black pans. They are like two sides of the same coin. One cannot go without the other. And the reason is that you cook in the day, but most people have dinner in the evening. So if you don't use a hay box, in the evening, again, they have to light a fire and reheat the food. So the hay box prevented this. And I want to emphasize this because in so many projects, I have seen that cookers are distributed without hay boxes. And I don't think that's a very good idea. Black pans are equally important, of course. And then the insulation within the hay box, we use blankets. And this worked very well. And if we calculate the cost per refugee for all of this, so the cooker, the hay box, the pans, everything, it was about $12 at the time. I'm talking about 20 years ago. Then we come to the next thing that is equally important, is training. It's not just a matter of donating a cooker to people. It means a completely different way of cooking, and especially for people who are very often illiterate. That is, they have to make a huge shift. So in every camp we had training halls and people were trained. We formed user groups, we organized competitions, etc. And we did follow up because the cooker was sometimes damaged. We evaluated the cooking process with the refugees, adapted the cookers, etc. Very important to make it successful. And here you see one of the refugee families with their shared solar cooker in the background. And we adapted quite a lot of things. For instance, we changed the stand to make it less vulnerable for the wind. We introduced a needle to track the sun, to see the direction of the sun. The iron of the stand was replaced by galvanized steel or aluminium. So a lot of changes since we started, but the result was very promising. In 2017, we had reached the maximum number of cookers in the camps. It was about 85,000. Why not 110,000? Well, that was because some of the huts were in the shadow. You can see a tree on the picture, and there were more trees. So in some parts of the camps, it was virtually impossible to use solar cookers. But 85,000, that was over 7,000 cookers produced and used, 14,000 hay boxes, and 28,000 pans. So huge production. And Deepak Gadhia told me at a certain stage that, did you know that your project is the biggest of its kind on the world scale? We didn't know it, but he said, well, I do know because I'm very well informed. And it was not our intention to become the biggest, but we just wanted to do a proper job. So starting with just a few cookers and then ending up with this result I hope it can inspire other people. The return of investment was about 2 years without, of course, calculating the benefits for the climate. And the cookers altogether saved per annum the exhaust of about 20,000 tons of carbon dioxide and the use of about 15,000 tons of firewood, or the equivalent of 1.3 million liters of kerosene. That was 2007, 2008. Then we handed over the project to the UNHCR. And then afterwards, most of the refugees were relocated to third countries like the US, Canada, Australia. Almost none went back to Bhutan, unfortunately. But they started a new life. And after that, the cookers were handed over to the surrounding communities. But this success inspired us greatly, and our foundation has done a lot of projects, also in the health sector, education, agriculture, corporations. But we have built about 9 schools, and in one of the schools we decided to incorporate the success of solar cooking. And it was very obvious for us that SK14s in villages and cities, they don't become very successful because of the factors I have already mentioned. In other situations, we have to shift to possibilities like communal kitchens with large automated concentrators. As you can see here on the roof of the school. This is the Vajra Academy, and it carries 5 pairs of chefra dishes, each about 9 square meters. And as you can see on the picture on the lower right with the students, between each pair there is a balloon filled with water, and because of the steam is produced and through the pipelines, the steam goes to the ground floor where the kitchen is situated. And this kitchen can cook for up to 115 children per day. not the whole year round, because Nepal has a monsoon climate. So about 4 months there is not so much sun, sometimes in the morning, but in the afternoon it will mostly rain. The first ecological school in Nepal with the solar cooking device. But not only that, we wanted to integrate more ecological options, like a dairy farm, which produces milk for the children and dung for a biogas plant that in its turn produces biogas when the sun doesn't shine during monsoon, and we can still do the cooking. The children, they work in organic gardens and they grow up thinking in terms of solutions rather than in problems. There is a green curriculum that focuses on that. And this is one of the reasons that the International Ashoka Foundation has declared the Vajra Academy Change Maker School in 2016. And I will mention the specific points that play a role in the selection of changemaker schools. But there are about 300 in the world. And our country, for instance, the Netherlands, has only 9, and Nepal has 1. We can say they are selected on the basis that they deliver education that is desperately needed in the 21st century. Another option in which we used the success of solar cooking, as an ecologist, I was involved in eco-trackings in Nepal, in Tibet, Pakistan, India, Ladakh, Sikkim, Bhutan, Himalayan countries, you can say. And in 2013, I took up the challenge of organizing the first solar expedition. It was to a sacred lake on the border between Nepal and Tibet on 4,300 meters, that is about 14,000 feet. And with the tracking, I took one Prince 14 solar cooker and the number of Prince 16 cookers. You can see them here on the pictures, and you can see the tents in the distance where we camped. There were 25 trackers and 40 staff, and we cooked with the sun for all of them. It really meant a tremendous logistic change of the way things usually go during a tracking. It meant training already experienced cooks. So, and asked them, would it be possible for you to prepare meals with these devices in the mountains? We had to change the type of food. We had to adapt the cooking times. So the cookers, they would start very early in the morning, run to the lunch site, and have the lunch ready when the group arrived. It was a big challenge, but we did it. Then the last project in which we incorporated solar cooking, success of solar cooking, that was a project, we could say a copy of the Vajra Academy, but then for commercial purposes, an eco-resort near the border of Tibet. And here you can see some pictures. And like the Vajra Academy, the eco-resort was equipped with a solar cooker and this was the latest type at the time. Huge 90 square meter dish on the top of the resort, with the possibility of storing heat with oil, allowing for cooking in the evening or at night. And like the Vajra Academy, it also had a dairy farm, organic gardens, biogas plant, even windmills. And I got one picture back. You can see the yurts brought all the way from Mongolia as a different type of eco accommodation. Well, until this far, the success. Then comes April 2015. The resort was almost ready. And if you remember, maybe there were 2 major earthquakes and hundreds of aftershocks. One earthquake in April 2015 and another one in May 2015. 10,000 people were killed, 22,000 people were injured, about 600,000 houses were destroyed, another 300,000 were severely damaged. And at the lower right, you can see that even temples were not spared, and the Buddha is sitting outside between the rubble of stones. And maybe you know, or maybe not, that the Buddha was born in the country that is now Nepal, in the village of Lumbini. And I myself became Buddhist, and I call the Buddha, sometimes my colleague, as the first ecologist in history because of his philosophy. Well, the epicenter of the second earthquake in May 2015 was very close to the eco-resort. And here you can see the result. It was almost finished. It was about to be opened. Actually, I had already visited the resort with 2 groups before it was ready. Yeah, and it is now on the verge of bankruptcy. And why do I tell this? Life is not only about successes. Sometimes we have to face the opposite, challenges and disasters. And this, the destruction of the eco-resort has dragged Vajra Academy into problems recently, because somehow the 2 projects were financially connected, and money from the academy was drawn to the resort in vain, I must say. And the bank now wants to auction the Vajra Academy. And that would mean the loss of the first ecological school in Nepal. It would mean the loss of quality education. It would mean the loss of knowledge about the environment, which is taught in Vajra Academy. It would mean the loss of awareness about climate change. And here I must emphasize that although Nepal is already suffering from climate change, I mean, glaciers are melting, monsoons have become much more severe and more devastating. We all know what happened in Pakistan last year, and the number of landslides and mudslides has increased. But although this is all true, there is very little attention for climate change in Nepal. If I talk to children from other schools, they have no idea. There are no lessons about climate change. If I talk to politicians, there is nothing in their programs to stop climate change. And they say, yes, that is a good idea. But so at least that we have this institute that is addressing these issues, these problems, and that mean a lot for the future of Nepal and for the climate at large. If this school is lost, then that would also mean the loss of the only changemaker school in Nepal. And what are the core values of changemaker schools? Well, they prepare students to become change makers, leaders in their countries, facing the challenges of the 21st century. Change maker schools focus also on empathy, on teamwork, on creativity, and on leadership. They count as the most innovative schools in the world. Yeah, so here is my plea, my urgent request. If it would be possible for you, help me to find the people who can help save the Vajra Academy. By connecting me to people who have access to fundings and who simply want to help save this beautiful institute. And I would like to finish with a very short video about the Vajra Academy made by the directors and the principals of the school itself. This video still says 260 changemaker schools there. The number has grown to 300, I saw recently. The number in the Netherlands is still 9. And as said, in Nepal, only 1. So Luther, that is in short the story of our solar adventure over the last 25 years. Yeah, it took a lot of effort, took a lot of patience, because, for instance, the solar cooker project in the refugee camps, okay, it was 85,000 people, but it took us 10 years. So it is a matter of long, how to say?
Yes. That's just incredible. The story and as the things that resonate with me as a community organizer, several things. One is you didn't set out to get 100,000 cookers. You set out to get it started. Collaborate with people that could help out. Find the people that had the resources to put together what, as you say, it is one of the most expensive cookers you can get. But really an ingenious way to set them in the right place at the right time for people who can use them when they need them. Great.
That is incredible, because if you calculate the surface of all the cookers, it is more than a few soccer fields.
Yes.
You imagine,
They're big.
over all the camps, and not anymore. But at the time, if you opened the Google Maps in that area, it was my Nepali colleagues who informed me that if you can count the cookers because of the shiny dots
Oh, wow.
over the area.
You can only do it by measuring the amount of light.
Cookers.
Yeah, but the SK-14s, they were meant to be there at for as long as needed in one spot. That's so critical. The other part was focusing on solutions rather than the problems. The organizers, as I learned through just doing it and hearing from other organizers back in the 90s in my neighborhood, they called it asset-based organizing. Don't go to a neighborhood and say, boy, you have a lot of problems. Let's figure out how to fix them. No, guess what? You have resources that can be brought to bear. You have talents. Everyone themselves they have enough time. The people that say, I don't have enough time, very few of them don't have enough time. Almost everyone has a little bit of time that they can throw in. And if it's an hour a month or an hour a week, we learn to take advantage of that. So, and
they end up not using the cooker. And sometimes people in Nepal would say that, yes, I'm using the cooker. And then I had a look at the cooker and it was completely covered with dust. So they were just trying to please me, but not using them. And we should not blame them. I mean, it is very logical. They don't have the options to use them. And let's be honest. The SK-14, if you're sitting next to it and have the time, it works. But going outside every 10 to 15 minutes to face it towards the sun is not very practical. And even people in developing countries, they're not doing it. So I would ask the people organizing these projects, would you do it yourself at home? Would you go outside and change the position of your cooker every 10 minutes and then put the food in the hay box and then eat it in the evening? I don't think many people would. No, so that's why I believe in very specific situations, yes. If you go to an area where there simply is no any means for cooking, no fuel, then you have to. Then this is workable. Refugee situations, yes, it's not easy. Also because it's not very easy to cooperate with these big international institutions like the UNHCR. They shift their staff, and the next one has a completely different idea than the last one. So there you go again, or inviting them for a solar lunch, etc. But it is possible. And it is possible to save money as well. But it's also true that refugee situations are unpredictable. So you never know how long the refugees are going to stay. They are meant to be there for as short as possible. So nobody wants a long-term solution. And Bhutanese refugees in eastern Nepal was a bit of an exception because they've been there for decades. So then there was the fuel crisis in 2006, 7, 8, and it became increasingly more expensive to provide kerosene to the cookers. That's what the UNHCR did. And so they were open to cooperating with us. But it's not easy. You have to be very persistent and diplomatic. And, yeah.
Well, a couple other items I jotted down as you were presenting and doing the video. The training, making sure people know how to use them and understand the value, where they need to go, and so forth. Very few organizations I know go to that length. One that I am familiar with, I interviewed them for my channel, the Solar Urban Partners, and it's a United Methodist Church project, an official project of that church, and they do the training and follow-up. They have actually one of the few organizations I've seen where they've gone back and tried to find every last cooker to see if they were used. And interestingly, I don't remember the exact numbers, but something like 10 or 20% were still using them, and they were disappointed. But for me, this was not a refugee situation. It's Dominican Republic, I believe. I think they were also active in Sierra Leone, and that's actually phenomenally good considering people don't recognize they're not refugees now. But I like to put it this way: they're going to be refugees in place. You know what I mean? With the climate change and not having clean water, we have this in the States. We have a few cities where all of a sudden they've got broken water systems, and it's not as if we're totally immune from that. I mean, we could be 2 days away from the exact same problems that a solar cooker will take care of it at least in the interim. So. I have friends that tell me, since I have these 80 cookers, boy, if things really go bad, we're going to...
They will visit you.
That's right. I said, well, on your way, pick up some roadkill or something. I don't know, because I mean, what are we I'm going to feed all of you? But I think I guess that's one thing I've just thought of as one of the few original ideas I've had about solar cooking, because so many people have done wonderful things already, but to express to people, you are going to be a refugee in place. It's a matter of time if we don't do all this other stuff that will prevent us being in a situation where we're going to desperately need the solar cookers. So what else I got here? Oh, the change maker schools. What's struck me is there are a handful of us that have assembled a project. I may have mentioned it when we visited before, where we are going to go to maker spaces around the world, and individual makers, people who are they like tinkering, they like creating stuff on their own with materials at hand and so forth. And the original idea was to have a contest to design a really good solar cooker. And these maker spaces, many cities, I think there's several in the Netherlands, where someone just finds an empty warehouse or business space where they can get welders, bandsaws, 3D printers, computers for people that want to do tech stuff online, design CAD systems and all that. A lot of the people that have come up with innovative solar cooking designs, they had their start in maker spaces, because they saw the creativity put into all sorts of other things, and they said, well, I'm going to try to do it with a solar cooker. I mention this because as we've met online, we thought, well, let's extend this to maybe other institutions. And I only vaguely recall hearing about change maker schools, but I would think they'd be a good candidate to say, hey, we'll send this challenge out to you. If they really want to make change, if they can come up with a really good cooker design that maybe it is a hybrid that would work both in refugee situations and elsewhere. We don't know. We're planning it. It's going to be several months before we can say, okay, here's the parameters, and we're going to reach out to all the maker spaces. But I don't know. I've just mentioned this because the Changemaker School, yes. And I will do what I can to find people who I'm in a poor spot as far as knowing specific funding sources, but I know several organizations that have tapped into them. And of course, you probably have connected with Solar Cookers International, which they find themselves kind of in the same boat, where they, to keep going, they need to find constant new sources of revenue and so forth. And sharing your story on my forum, that was the idea behind the forum, is to say, hey, we've got great stuff that has happened, is happening, is going to happen, but we also have this great need. And in this particular case, it just would break my heart to hear that the school has closed down. Now it is still
It's still working.
Mm-hmm.
It's still working, but the bank wants to auction it. And since there is so little attention for climate change in Nepal, nobody would be interested in the solar kitchen. They would remove the rubbish and make an ordinary school. So the whole concept will be gone. And you know, the link between the school and the eco resort was also to give an example to the students to become sustainable entrepreneurs. They would have a place to do internships and to be inspired to start up their own business and become sustainable entrepreneurs themselves, creating jobs instead of trying to find one. So that was the whole idea. And then some of the graduates could have a job in the resort. Well, the resort is gone. It is officially it's not bankrupt yet. This is just a question of time. The school can still be saved. So that is one of the challenges I'm facing now with my team. We're trying to do whatever we can, because once it is gone, well, the school exists now 16 years of experience gone. We've tried a lot of things. We have our own network in the Netherlands. We have approached within our network people, well-to-do people. Then we are reaching out to organizations. So yes, that is what we do now. But we're talking about a lot of money, not compared to the value of the school. I mean, the school, we're talking about millions of dollars, the value of the school. But still, even for Western countries, a few $100,000 is a lot of money. And that's what we are talking about. So it would mean somebody who would really want to help save this institution. And we can see it's all a consequence of the earthquakes. And of course, Nepal, being a third world country, the government is not really supportive to the people. Yes, they attract money from donor countries. Some of the money is misused, but companies, they just go bankrupt. And so I see it as a side consequence of the earthquakes already 8 years ago.
You have your work cut out for you. I mean, this is a major thing to batten down the hatches, or whatever you call it, sink the foundation. And you do have the idea to restore the eco village too, to bring it back.
I don't think that's possible.
Okay.
So that will be bought by another company from the bank when it is auctioned. I don't think I focus on the school. That is already enough. We're talking about education. It's the pillar of the future, of course. So that is my main aim at the moment.
Great.
So if there would be a group interested to visit the school, look, the school itself doesn't seem to be in trouble. It is a matter who becomes the owner. It's behind the screens. So the school is until now is doing very well. There are parents' days, sports days, where hundreds of people flock together. There are now about 500 students. It's working well, and we're working with other schools. So we have an exchange program in 2023, where people from the International School of Rotterdam will visit the school. So that is all going on. But if the school is auctioned, it will all stop. So this is the problem.
Yes.
Who will be the future owner of the school? Will it be taken over by a company who is totally uninterested in the philosophy of the school?
I do know, I mean, sad to say, I do know of one case in a city in the Southwest states here, where we have the Sunrich, where it was actually built to be solar thermal heated, and was actually called one of the first solar buildings in the United States. and the original architects had offices there, and then they eventually moved out, and then a new owner came on board, didn't understand it, shuttered the panels. They're still there because this building is apparently on the historical register for that state, which, yeah, so it's mothballed, as we say, and but sad because it's been 30 plus years that's been sitting there disconnected. And what are they doing? They're using natural gas for the heat and to heat the water. And when they,
so this is exactly what will happen with the Vajra Academy.
yes,
With somebody with who doesn't have an eco mind will not understand the concept, only thinks of money, and will try to get rid of all the eco-friendly solutions that we have included. Of course, I'm open to questions about the process,
yes.
what we did, what were the factors of success. One of the very important factors of success was listen to the users. They're not stupid, they're not unwilling, but how do we expect them to use the device if it is not practical for them? So listen to them, what can be improved, and try to incorporate that. That is what we did. We did surveys, we evaluations, and took out the principal things that could be improved, and actually did that, and thus raised the way the cookers were used.
Sure.
We organized competitions, and the first prize was a pressure cooker to cook even faster.
There we go. Well, if your email address, of course, is in the presentation, people can contact you directly through that. That's correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Yes. Great.
Yeah.
Yes.
In 2018, I joined another international solar cooker conference organized by SEI, and they requested me to share my experiences, the factors of success. And that presentation is also on the wiki page.
Yes.
So you can go through it. And to make it, this is ridiculous. We had planned the next solar cooker conference in the Vajra Eco Resort in Nepal. Can you imagine? Yeah, very sad.
Well, it's just
They were very interested to do that, but we couldn't get it completed. So that's the situation now. I have something to show you. Just hang on.
Sure.
Of course, I have my own solar cooker at home, but I also have this model.
Oh, yes, I have that too. The 350, I think they called it. The SK350.
Yeah, this it was presented to me by EG Solar.
Yes.
Who provided reflectors for our project. So it's a small scale model, and it's in my room, in
Nice.
my meditation room.
Nice.
So it's very small. I mean,
Yes, I have that same
there's
vibe.
only
Yes.
one potato will fit.
Yeah. But I have it in my garage, way away from the windows, because even that little tiny thing is very, very powerful. So, wow.
Yes, it works.
Yes, it works. Yes. Well, I can't think of any other questions. Is there anything else you'd like to share, or any questions we should pose to the group once we assemble the forum?
Well, I guess that the people who watch this video, they are promoters themselves. So if I look back how we started, then my advice would be don't give up. And if it doesn't work, then look into the situation, listen to the people, try to adapt the project. Maybe you have not chosen the right design, maybe not the right area or the right community, but keep on digging until you find a solution, and it'll work. One thing is very clear to me, that solar cooking does not work in every environment, in every circumstance. So you have to study, like I did. I went to this conference and focusing on not on the projects that had just started or were going to start or had been running for a few months. No, which project has proven to be successful for a number of years. Those are the projects from which you can learn.
Great. Well, thanks so much. I think
Thank you, Luther. You're doing a wonderful job connecting people this way.
That's my only challenge is finding you and finding another person, and but it's what makes the world go round, and we see progress.
Okay, all the best.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Good luck with your program.
Thank you. Okay, thanks everyone for attending, and we will definitely open up to other questions. I'm going to read the ones that came through the chat. Maarten is here. Welcome again, Maarten, third time. See you face to face. Just a wonderful story, and so much we can learn from, as you say, both the successes and the challenges. And I'm just going to go through these questions real quick, and then we can have kind of a free-for-all with anyone that has questions. I want to pose them directly. One of the first ones was, who installed the Scheffler cookers on the roof there at the academy?
Okay. Well, first of all, Luther, thank you very much for making this possible, this connection of people over the world. With the intention to spread knowledge about solar cooking and to bring it into practice. And thank you, everybody, being here in this presentation. Well, coming back to your question, Luther, the dishes on the roof of the Vajra Academy were installed by Gadhia Solar. So the company of Deepak Gadhia, who has his birthday today. Don't forget to send the birthday wishes. I haven't done it yet, so I should not forget. He will be very pleased. But he's no longer the owner of the company, but they were the ones back in 2005-06 who installed the installation.
Okay. David Noppert, who's a Rotarian, I believe in Ottawa, Ontario, asked, what about a solar expedition tour through various countries, or just to Nepal, as a fundraiser for the Vajra Foundation?
Well, it is to organize such an expedition, that is quite something. And especially during Corona, a lot of connections were lost. Tourism has become rather risky. I myself have, for many years, I've been organizing pilgrimages to India and Nepal, Buddhist pilgrimages, to various other countries in Asia as well. But I lost a lot of money in recent years. So, and financial risks of organizing such tour are tremendous. So, apart from that, I'm over 65. An expedition to 14,000 feet that is another thing. So, not in the near future, and most probably not by me. It was also meant to make it possible and to inspire people, to show tracking company Tamserku in Nepal that this is possible, that Sherpa cooks can do the job in high altitude. It is risky for another reason, because you can't command the weather and you need sun. So you cannot choose just any month. You have to be quite sure about stable blue skies. We were lucky during that tracking, but I mean, if you calculate on cooking with the sun and there is no sun, you have a big problem.
Yes, the Sharon Clausen, who's one of the luminaries in solar cooking, that is attending now. She's waving. She
Okay.
and she asks, and I know this is a real critical question from way back when I did some fundraising, is knowing about how much to ask for. And she asks, is there a target funding amount for helping to preserve the school? When you go to funders and they say, how much do you need? And you almost have to know how much they might be able to part with, but let them know what the total cost is. Do you have a ballpark figure for that?
Yeah, I think I already mentioned it in the presentation. It's very difficult to give a specific amount because we are putting pressure on the bank, and Nepal is in very, very serious financial crisis. While the world is somehow in a financial crisis, but in countries like Nepal, this is always much, much, much worse. So everybody is looking for money. And this is also the reason why this bank wants its money now. We are prepared to sell part of the land of the school, and we have buyers, but they can't find the money themselves for the same reason. So we got stuck, and there is the bank interest that continues to grow. And we have connections that put pressure on the bank to lower the amount. But I would say at least we are talking about a few $100,000. So for Nepal, that is a tremendous amount, but even for Western countries, that is not peanuts. But if you compare it to the value of the school, I mean, the value of the hardware is already a few $1 million, but the software of the school, the value of the software of the school is very difficult to put that into a financial amount. It's in my opinion, it's extremely valuable. So a few $100,000 would be needed.
Okay. And I was just going to put in the chat, your email, of course, was on the email address was in the PowerPoint that you gave. And I can put that in the chat so people can send direct information on potential funding sources and maybe even individual components. For instance, I mentioned Jim LaJoy is one of our attendees, and he has the all-season solar cooker and has quite a lot of materials for reflectors, if nothing else, for as you work on the school, maybe for replacement parts, who knows. But that's the whole point of the forum. I'm happy to say, basically for the group too, we have almost 4 times as many attending this morning than the first one. This is the second one. This is the very beginnings of what I hope will be a growing and more solidified network around the world. So if that's okay, I'll share your email address once again in the chat. Here it goes. Moving on, Pat McCardle, who also has, oh man, I mean, how long, Pat, you have been around 25, 30 years at least doing solar cooking, including terrain that probably mirrors a lot of what you experienced, Maarten, in Nepal. She was critical in getting solar cookers in Afghanistan, if I recall correctly, during the early stages of the conflict there that our country was involved with. And she has a couple questions. Where did you get the design for the parabolic solar cooker that spins around to track the sun? I believe that's the Scheffler, correct? That has the clock mechanism that spins around.
Are we talking about the dishes, the Scheffler dishes on the roof of the school, or are we talking about the one huge umbrella on the roof of the eco resort?
Well, I was referring to the ones you showed a photograph of, a design that you were making, I think locally, and the parabola was on a stand that allowed it to spin around to track the sun. Whereas with the Scheffler, you have to lift the whole thing and move it because the base does not spin. So I was wondering that, because I have a solar cooker, it's not made anymore, and it spins around. It looked very much like the one that you were showing. So I just wonder where that design came from.
It came from a company based in New Delhi, if I remember correctly. We're talking about the year 2000, what was it, 12 or something when we started. Anyway, I was connected through Deepak Gadhia. So I'm not aware of the current details of companies involved in the production of this device. You can't, it was difficult to see the scale of this umbrella on the picture, but it is very big and it is very costly. It's meant for institutions like hotels, hospitals, etc. 90 square meters is the dish, can you imagine? So.
Okay, and then Pat also asked if the hay box is, of course, being used with the parabolics. That's such an essential integrated
Yes.
cooking. Are they also used where you have the biogas or any other non-solar solar fuel, so to speak? The hay boxes, they're part and parcel of the entire program, right? Not just for the parabolics that were distributed.
Yeah, that was very funny to discover that the users themselves showed that the hay boxes were effective because we provided them with the solar cookers for obvious reasons, but they themselves discovered that during the monsoon months, when the solar cookers could not be used, they could still use the hay box. So they were used the whole year round. And we taught them you don't have to fully cook the food. Just bring it to boiling, let it cook a few minutes and put it in the hay box. It doesn't have to, I don't know the English word for it, soft, like potatoes, or what you call it. Well done, well done. It doesn't have to be well done. Just bring it to boiling and boil it a few minutes and then put it in the hay box. That's enough. And they discovered that during monsoon they could do the same with food cooked on above firewood and save firewood that way also. So yes.
Excellent. And this is a technology that we seem to rediscover every other generation, because I recall my grandmother living about 2 hours away from us in North Dakota, wrapping the dish for our Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter dinners in 3 or 4 layers of blankets and driving. And then it still was steaming, piping hot. She maybe didn't even finish cooking, but it finished cooking on the way. Just incredible.
I'm using it still.
Yes.
In my kitchen, I'm using a hay box with fleece blankets. Very simple, but very effective.
We do that a lot with our kitchen when it's not sunny and we can't cook outside and we have to use the gas. We will bring it to a boil for whatever and then put it in the hay box and put it right out on our dining room table. So it's ready to go. I wanted to acknowledge too, we have at least the two principals for the Solar Education Project, and I neglected to include them in our original conversation. They too do training in solar cooking and an incredible amount of work overseas. I believe at Kenya and Haiti, both of you, Mary and Jennifer, chime in with anywhere else you've been. So when I mentioned the solar oven partners, they had done a comprehensive study to go back to find out usage, and they were disappointed. But when I heard the percentage, I thought, well, I've heard of organizations that go back and none of them are being used, or they're, the reflectors are being used for mirrors, whereas they were finding 15 or 20%. It was actually quite a few. So I want to mention them. They are also another resource for following through on this. I think I've covered all the questions that were in the chat. Maybe some more have come to light that I have missed in terms. So everyone unmute when you're ready if you have a question for Maarten.
Don't feel shy.
Well, thank you. I don't have a question, but great effort. Thank you so much. Yeah, amazing.
Okay, thank you, James. I think that was, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. I
Later.
hope that I have to emphasize that I'm getting old now, and my experience is from way back. I started in 1997, and I'm sure new options have come up. So my experience is from from history, we could say, and young people have to take up the challenge again. But I hope that my presentation contributes to the faith that if you persist, if you have patience, and if you don't take yourself as a starting point, but the user and the situation, then you can have beautiful results. I started myself with just a few cookers. I had never had the idea of spreading it to 85,000 people. Just that happened on the way, but over 10 years. And sometimes, because I have invited a lot of people for to inspire them, but young people sometimes seem to be less patient. They want to do the job quickly, fast. Can I do it next year? I want to finish it because I want to go to the next job. And sometimes just simply they take time.
Great. And I see we're actually starting to see a queue of people with their hands up for questions, which is great.
That's good. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I'm gonna call on Milind Kulkarni, who I just spoke with a few days ago, who's going to be a future presenter at this forum with his sun dish cooker and other ideas about inventions. So Milind, if you'd like to unmute and ask a question.
Yes, definitely. It was really good and informative online meeting. I want to take your attention that he have mentioned that it was not practically possible to every 15 minutes change the direction of the reflector and track the reflector and cook. It was not possible. It is not a practical also. So that's why they are not using solar cooker. But Luther, you might be aware that in sun dish we have solved this problem. Once you put it and forget it for 3 hours, it is, of course, it is not instantly cooking the food. It takes 2 to 3 hours. Even in 1.5 hours also, I am getting this food is cooked in my home with the sun dish. But sun dish, here I want to mention that sun dish have solved this problem of tracking, and you don't need to track at all. You just keep it and forget it.
Okay, that's good news. Thank you very much for your contribution. Of course, we can't, how to say, the experience we have in a certain situation are not applicable to all situations. So at least with the SK14, which was available at the time, we noticed that if people would not adjust the cooker, then at the end of the day, the food was not cooked. And that worked very much against solar cooking because food was very valuable for them, and spoiling a few meals stops the motivation immediately. So that was very, very important for us to solve.
Yes, and I'm familiar with the sun dish of Milind's. We have it outside my my spouse's second floor window, and it performs as advertised. It's kind of a conical reflector that Milind patterned after a seashell that had basically the exact configuration you need to not have to focus. And I just put in the chat you can go to the fandom, the wiki, solar cooking wiki, and just search for sun dish, all one word, and see his cooker. Perhaps someday that would be scaled up to for like a village application. And also acknowledging one of our attendees, Kurt Newbeck. I referred Kurt to Millen because a lot of what Kurt has said in my interviews with him apply, because it's a reflector with the cooking pot in the middle, just like Sharon's Copenhagen and Roger Haynes's cooker, where it's a panel cooker but configured to really grab as much sun and not have to be moved around a lot. So just to expand on that, I see Dave Noppert, you're next up.
Thank you, Martin. That was a wonderful presentation. Very
Thank
modern.
you.
And your lessons are so critical because you've had that experience, and I think that follow up and that training is so critical. Quick question: have you at all investigated or talked to anybody about possible carbon credits to help with some of the funding for that school?
Yeah, at the time, the carbon credit trade was so very unclear, and there was so much bureaucracy. We tried it, but we ended up in paperwork, and luckily we had found other donors in the meantime. So we didn't make use of that. I don't know how the situation is at the moment, whether that works, but for small organizations, it's very, very complicated. And there is also a lot of corruption along the way. So it's very difficult to allocate trustable projects.
Thank you.
Okay, and I know Mary and or Jennifer were about to ask something before we kept going with another topic, but Mary or Jennifer, please.
Jennifer, your mic is still off, but if you
Trying, there we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Tough
Welcome.
key. Thank you very much. I mean, this has been fabulous and really very timely, I think, for us, and that we're getting into a lot of schools, and a lot of schools globally need this information. So your process is very important, and we value that. I think by asking, what they need and starting with that and planning. But I have to ask you, now that the project has been, what you said, 15, 20 years, what would you do differently today in starting an eco school? How would you approach it today?
You mean starting an eco school? Like
Yes,
the
the change
that I
makers.
described?
Mm-hmm. If you were doing it today, even in Nepal, how would you start? Where would you begin today? The same? Would your process be the same?
Well, Jennifer, I would start exactly the same way. I would look into the situation. I would sit with the people, my partners, my local partners, and look what we can do locally. That is how we started. Look, the idea of solar cooking was on my mind. I'm ecologist, so how can I expect the people from the Vajra Foundation, my partners in Nepal, to follow me on that track? So what I did with pilot projects, I started myself in the refugee camps. And at a certain point, my local partners asked me whether it made sense that we had this cooperation, Vajra Foundation Holland, Vajra Foundation Nepal, and that I did this pilot project from the Netherlands, not through them. So that was a good question. So my answer was, but how I am ecologist, I believe this could be a solution. It was not your idea to do this. You're not, you have no technical background or ecological or biological background. So how do you think you can do the job? And then they said, well, if you don't give us the chance, then we can't show it. And that was the time for me to say, okay, if you want to, then show me you can. And then it became an equal partnership So we made the solar cooking project in the refugee camps a success, international success, and that inspired them. That had a lot of spin-off. So we have built 9 schools in Nepal, and 8 of them have been handed over to the government. And once you go back to those schools and see what kind of education is delivered there, is very disappointing. But what do you expect? I mean, schools need hardware. The school has got to be there, but who is going to take care of the curriculum? Since it was not our school anymore, we had handed it over to the Nepal government. Our influence was close to nil. And we decided if we want to deliver quality education, we have to build our own school, owned by a trust. And because of the success in the refugee camps, we together were convinced that solar cooking should have a place in the school. And at that time, the communal kitchens had come up in India. I guess you are aware of what Deepak Gadhia has developed. So that was our idea of including such a device on the roof. It would also show to the world that ecology, environment is very dear to us. And then we continued the conversation. Should it stop with solar cooking? What do we do if the sun doesn't shine? Well, maybe we can use biogas. Biogas was also used on quite successfully on a large scale in Nepal. So it was easy to include that. So a local company built the biogas plant. And so then why not have organic gardens? We have enough space, and herbal gardens, and then of course the green curriculum. You see, so it started very small and expanded. And I don't think the idea of this is what an ecological school looks like and transpose it to another spot, that it would work. You have to start from scratch, and that takes time. Is that an answer to your question?
Yeah, oh, yes, very much so. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay.
So Luther, this is Barry Butler. I'm getting ready to go into dialysis. I wondered if I could ask a question or make a comment.
Sure. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we've been developing a solar hot plate which uses PV systems. So 400 watts of PV charging a car battery allows you to cook day and night, and with a 400 watt burner, and allows you to cook inside, and gets away from some of the problems of storing food, because you can cook day or night. The battery has enough power to cook 2 meals. So you can cook in the morning before sunup and in the evening after sundown. And we've sent a system to Luther to test. And we've got 3 systems in Nairobi being tested at the university for the Kakuma refugee camp. And I just wanted to say that before I have to go into dialysis and I won't be able to participate.
Thanks so much, Barry. Yes, we met with Barry and I keep saying the Sullivans, or is it the Davenports? I don't know why I keep getting the last names mixed up, but about a year
it was
ago,
the Davenports.
The Davenports, yes. And I was able to see that system and the water purification system as well. And I'm just behind on editing my episodes for the channel, but you're still in the queue, I assure you. And what Barry has mentioned, there are numerous organizations that saw 2 or 3 years ago photovoltaic costs going, the costs breaking even, and after that, of course, going further down where it seemed to make sense to hook them up to hot plates or induction cookers, microwaves. and so forth. There are a few that are on the wiki, I believe. If not, I'll just mention a few. You can Google them: Ecoca, Sunspot PV, and then another one's Mpishi, MPISHI, very similar to what Barry has going there. I see next up we got Jim LaJoy patiently has had his hand up. Jim, go ahead.
Hi, I have a comment. First of all, I think that are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
We're here.
When you built the school and you had the steam power plant on the roof, my sense is that's a really great way to get people interested in solar. Here in California, the city of Davis years ago created a municipal solar utility, and they paid for the cost of photovoltaics going on people's roofs. So the question is, rather than requiring individuals to participate and go out and turn every 15 minutes, should we be more looking at larger scale projects, say something like the Villager solar oven, where the work on that can be shared and the results of that shared, and other types of things where, I don't know if a village could provide a hot water utility for people that would be solar, where the point being is that it does not require individual people to accept solar, but it would be something that an organization, a government, an agency could do, and the people would still benefit.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So then that would be comparable to a restaurant where you can where you eat cooked food, or can buy takeaway food. And for restaurants, I think these devices could be very practical, and would also have radiating influence. People see that food is cooked with the sun, so they can get inspired, and people don't have to buy these devices themselves and use them apart from their jobs. I mean, the restaurant is cooking food the whole day. It is their core business. So I think, it's very true. Good idea.
Yeah, this is Barry Butler again. The PV panels are now down to 35 cents a watt for panels that are taken off in the US, reprocessed and sent to Africa. So, in Nairobi, they can buy used PV panels at 35 cents a watt.
Okay, Barry, what is the cost of such a cooker?
The cost of the cooker with the panels and battery would be about $700 now. It should come down to about $500. But the systems work very well. We've got several in operation, and at the university in Nairobi, they've got 3 systems operating now, and they've all been working very well. They have a very high insulation in Kenya.
Yeah, it is always a matter of looking how a specific device works in specific circumstances and how it relates to the cost. So you have to see in all these aspects.
Yeah, the benefit is that with the battery and the solar charger, you get basically a USB output to charge your computer and your cell phone, and at the same time you also get power output for LED lighting. So in the refugee camp, you not only get to cook inside, but you also get charging for your cell phone and
understand. These are new times. That way back in what was it, 97? So charging batteries was not as important as it has become now, for instance.
Yeah, and the battery, what we're using is a simple car battery because that's less than $100 in Kenya. And in the refugee camp, they have to trade the food they get from the UN for fuel to cook the food. And it costs them about $25 a week or $25 a month traded food to cook to get fuel. And so they're paying almost $250 to buy charcoal, and that's denuding the forests around the refugee camp.
Yeah, that's the situation in any refugee camp. And as said, it's not an easy job to get into the camps and convince the UNHCR and other agencies and the local authorities. And then who's going to pay for the cost? If it's going to be the UNHCR, they're going to be very critical about how long are the refugees staying here, and do we want a long-term solution? Because then they give a wrong impression, maybe. And I mean, all these things are involved in the decision-making process.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. I see a bunch of names that I only recognize from the fact that I found you online and invited you to attend, but I have never met you. Probably about half of you I've either interviewed for my channel or otherwise connected, but I'd want to give people that at least are new to me a chance to ask any questions or even just introduce yourselves to the group.
I see that Milind has a question.
Oh, I think Milind, is your hand just still up because it wasn't turned off, or do you have another question?
Oh.
I think the hand is just still.
Oh. Okay. There are no other hands, so
Yes, it is finished.
It's finished.
Okay. I mean, not to embarrass anyone, but I see the names. I don't recognize Janet Amanze. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm in Spain. I'm Janet Amanze. I schooled in the University of Algarve, and it was there I got to know about the solar conference. I attended it in 2000 and I think that was 2020 or so, or 2020. That should be 2020. Professor Celestino invited me, and I'm a food scientist, and then I was doing my master's in food technology, and that was how I got to know about it. So I've been trying to attend for this one.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome.
But right now I'm in Spain.
Okay. And maybe we'll see you at the next conference in July, which I will bring up the wiki page, which has the latest news about that once we run out of questions.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Any last other questions or introductions?
Maybe
Luther.
sorry.
Luther.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had a question, and it took me this long to figure out how to put my hand up.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about
Just
that.
do it in the camera, like Jim
Right.
LaJoy.
Okay, let me turn the camera on. Oh, that's pathetic.
No.
Okay, so hi, Maarten. Thank you for spending this much time with us. Really enjoyed that. So Solar Education Project, part of what we do also is developing curriculum resources that can be used in schools. It's theme-based, project-based education centered around solar cookers, and with the idea that a solar cooker can be a tool for cross-curricular education. So my question is, how was the curriculum for the what was it called? Changemaker School. How was it developed? Is that teacher-led curriculum, or is it purchased from an organization that provides curriculum to the Changemaker schools?
No, I think that's why the school was selected as a changemaker school, because some schools want to become a changemaker school, but it doesn't work that way. You have to prove that you actually work according to their philosophy. We made the curriculum ourselves. We started from scratch. Of course, nowadays there is so much available online, and we even organize lessons from the Netherlands to Nepal, partly thanks to Corona, I should say, that has speeded up the development tremendously. But what we do is, first of all, you have to follow the government curriculum. You have to deliver education with which students will pass their final exam. But if you do that in, and this is very important, I think, if you do that in a very comprehensive way, in a very practical way, then you can save time, and you have time left for things that the government doesn't think is important. And these are the skills that changemaker schools deliver, because the government does not demand Nepal students to have knowledge about the environment, about climate change, etc. That is what we do extra. And we do it as per the need, through discussions in the team, and by bringing people from outside to the school, volunteers, advisors, etc. But of course, a lot is available right now, but it starts with the teacher, with the principals. If they are not convinced that it is important, it will not work. You can give them the nicest programs, but if they're not convinced themselves, then how can they transfer it to their students? So I think that is the starting point, really.
Did you have a lot of success convincing them? Did it have to be one-on-one conversations, or?
It went very organically.
Mm-hmm.
And I can give you a very nice example that shows what I want to say. The success of our solar cooking project inspired one of the students that we have given hundreds, maybe thousands of scholarships to students. And some of them I knew because they were very intelligent. You can, if you enter the school, you immediately can pick out the ones that stand out in some way or another. And so I very quickly had established contact with one guy called Udit. And it was my dream that hopefully in the future, one of the students that we give a scholarship will study biology or ecology. But I never asked anybody. It was we told about our projects, etc. And somehow this Udit got inspired. And even before I knew, he had started to study biology and specialized in ecology. Then he became teacher in our Vajra Academy. And he did so well that now he's the principal. He's the principal of the school. And he's jokingly saying, I'm being recycled because I was a sponsored student myself. And now I'm training sponsored students again. So, but of course, this is a very long-term process. He learned from our successes, and he was convinced that what had to be done, and he became a teacher, became the principal. If you start looking for such a principal, that's a hell of a job. How are you going to find him? But he was exactly the one who had to be there.
I appreciate some various examples you gave of the importance of longevity and just being in it for the long run and not expecting a result right away. So that's encouraging, because it can be frustrating sometimes. Yeah, thank you.
Remember, I started with a few cookers. You can't believe the potential that is within you. if you believe in it, if you just continue, learn from your mistakes, you can do a wonderful job. And even without asking Udit, would you please start study biology? I'll pay you for it. No, he started himself. That is the best, of course. We don't need consultants that fly into a country and tell them what the people should do and then leave it. I love the country where I work. I love Nepal. I studied the culture, Hinduism, Buddhism. I know the mountains. I've walked in all the districts. And this is what people feel. I'm interested in them. And they want to learn with me. Yeah, I think that is one of the secrets. Applicable, that is, everybody can apply it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or introductions or just comments? That's the whole idea behind this forum. I'm just bowled over that we have so many from the world. Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yes,
Milind.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, we hear you.
Can you hear?
Yes.
I'm Milind. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Now it was a discussion about the solar education. Okay. So a few years back, I made innovation in solar education. I can share the photographs also. I made when you teach any subject to the kids, to students of 5 or 6, 7 standards, they need to see actually. So there are any layman can understand 4 or 5 uses of solar energy. That is solar cooker, solar light, wind, and solar drying, and all that, oven and all that. So I made a miniature model of each and every device, small solar cooker, small solar light, small windmill, everything, which are working, which is not just a little model. It is not just a miniature model, but which are in working condition. And I can share the photographs, and it was really excellent project.
Wonderful.
If somebody wants if somebody wants to know more about it, I can please share my email. I can send the photographs.
Sure. Go ahead and enter your email in the chat to everyone, and then everyone will have it. And also, I think you have a Facebook page for the Sundish. Do you have a Facebook or a link that they can go to see those photographs?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I have already shared Sundish Facebook page link.
Okay.
Nice.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you, Milind.
Thank you.
Anyone left that would like to speak up? This is the time. Some have asked me if there was a time limit, and I teach a class at Metro State, and I tell my presenters, you'll never see me do this, which is the radio signal for cut it short, stop, because if people are still interested in asking questions, that's what it's all about. So
maybe to conclude,
can I speak?
Oh, yes, who is this?
Yeah, this is Bapu from Pondicherry, India.
Oh, yes, yes. Go ahead.
So, we, as a family, probably we've been using a solar cooker since 1977, and what really helped me was that our school was generous and open-minded enough to have a solar science course in high school, and that has made a deep impact personally in my life, because I realized that catching children young was the key to making them convinced that solar cooking actually works. So over the last several, let's say, couple of years, my wife and me, we've got a module which says solar cooking in education, and we've been mainly working with tribal schools in the northeast of India. And thanks to Sharon, we've been using her Copenhagen parabolic cooker, using everyday materials that you find lying around in a stationery shop. And also we've been making box cookers as well. So one question which keeps coming back, and obviously I've been trying to look for some data on that, but I haven't. I mean, all of us can vouch for the fact that solar cooked food tastes so much better than if you do it on gas. But is there any data to back it up that the nutrition value is actually higher than if you cook in gas? So that's one thing that I'm hoping to work with a university in IIT Gandhinagar, where the Department of Biochemistry, they're willing to do a mass spectrometer analysis of the food, so that we've actually got the data to back saying that, yes, it is far more nutrient than food cooked in higher temperatures. So that's one thing. Other thing, I feel that, I mean, I've been really impressed with what Maarten has been doing. But what I found that in a country like India, and where solar cookers have been around for a long time, the moment something doesn't work, and I remember Maarten mentioning in his page that, you know, the hinges get spoiled and then immediately no one uses it. But I still feel that a box cooker, well made, is probably the most effective. And especially because it is unattended cooking, it's low temperature cooking, and also the fact that food never gets burnt, unlike in a parabola. So those are just my thoughts, and I know I'm biased for box cookers, but because I've been using for a while, but thanks to Sharon, probably I'll slowly become a bit more neutral, because I've started using the Copenhagen cooking, and whenever I travel, I carry that with me and try and, you know, show it to others, and hopefully that even if you get 1 or 2 converts in a place, it's a step forward. So just a few thoughts on that, what I wanted to share.
I can give a brief reaction. I have no knowledge about the nutritious facts about food cooked over gas or in a solar cooker. So that would be very interesting to know. That could be another factor of importance. Then, yeah, regarding the box cooker, I mean, everybody is free to choose his or her own cooker. There are every type has its own peculiarities, and one might like this cooker, another one might like that cooker. It depends the area, the climate, etc. But again, I would emphasize that if you want to run a project and go into an area, don't take yourself as a starting point. Like I use a box cooker, so why are they not using it? So then you have to figure out why they are not using it. So what is that? Maybe it's not practical for them, and in our case, the children playing football, so all the mirrors got damaged, etc. So sometimes it's very practical reasons.
Regarding the food and the temperature, Joe Radabau's book from 1998, Heaven's Flame, he mentioned speaking with several chefs who said the lower the temperature for the longest possible time, the better the food's going to taste. And just anecdotally reading that the same is true for the nutritional value. The higher you cook it, if it cooks too fast, the proteins don't break down into digestible nutrients and so forth. So there must be some research out there, but it would be good to have. Yes, go ahead.
I ran across a study on nutritional value, solar versus other means of cooking. And as soon as I can find it, I will post it on and it may already be on our Solar Education Project page, but I will send it. I need to look for it, but it was very interesting. And in many cases, not all, different nutritional like vitamins were retained at a higher level in solar versus other means of cooking. And so that's one thing. And then I do have to comment on the box cookers. And I'm not going to pronounce your name correctly. Is it Bapu?
That's right.
Deshmukh? Okay. You have really inspired us with your box cookers and their beautiful designs. So I know I spoke to you privately on Facebook. We included a picture of yours in one of the lessons that we do on aesthetics in engineering, because they're absolutely gorgeous. And I think that is appealing to people. And sometimes we neglect to take into account that people appreciate beauty. And so I just wanted to point out how beautiful your box cookers are. And I'll look for that.
Hello.
All credit goes to my wife on that.
Hello. Hello.
Yep. Who's speaking now?
Yes, I want. I'm Milind here again.
Oh, okay.
I would like to add on this about the quality of the food. In my home, last so many years, we have been using this solar cooker, the low temperature cooking, and I do not know about this, but my mother noticed it many times. The food cooked in the solar cooker lasts for longer time. It doesn't get spoiled. She always say like this, that solar cooked food remains as it is, even without putting into the refrigerator. It remains for longer time than the solar pressure cooking or cooking on the gas. This is what I would like to mention when it is a topic of solar cooking food quality.
Sure, that would be another one to add to the research. Bapu.
Yeah. Just to take on the point that Maarten mentioned, and I really loved it, that don't put yourself at the center of the project. And so, I mean, to carry on that thought, because I feel that there's no one silver bullet for cooking methods. My feeling is that you need a solar cooker, whatever it might be. You may need a biogas and also a smokeless firewood stove, I feel, because my experience has been working in the villages and tribal areas of India is that in the village, they would rather use firewood than gas because of the flavor that the food gets from the firewood. And only when they're forced to use gas would they do, apart from the exorbitantly priced, the gas cylinders that we have. So probably a multi-mode approach would work best. That's my feeling. And I love the fact that you said that don't put yourself at the center of the project.
Mhm.
Well, if I can throw in, I'll put it in the chat too, but we have the Facebook group called Promote Solar Cooking in Your Community. Mary and Jennifer's group, which is focused on strategies for promotion. And so all this is very good information for them. And then what I can do once I post this on YouTube, I will include that Facebook link and the solar education projects, because they Mary and Jennifer put together a lot of information from various sources. So that'll be two great resources to include in the comment section on the YouTube. So, okay, any last items?
Luther, this is Kurt Newbeck. I'll just mention briefly that last week when I attended, I was wearing a solar cooking t-shirt that came from Bapu.
Yes.
Again,
yes.
Full credit to my wife. She's the designer, she's the artist.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, Luther, maybe I can, last but not least, I would like to thank everybody for being present for almost 3 hours. And thanks to you, Luther, for making this possible. And once again, if you know a way to help us to save Vajra Academy, then don't think you do it for me. Do it for education in a developing country where we have worked very hard to make this possible and do it for the climate. I think it is very much needed. So thank you in advance.
Okay. Well, thanks again to Maarten. Thanks everyone else for joining in. As I said, this is overwhelming. This is a really great second. Sometimes a sequel to movies, they bomb. You know how they don't do as good as well. The first one we had about 7 or 8 folks. So we have 4 times as many that have stopped in for most or all of this, and that's the whole point. And also for many of those that will be presenting, I have about almost 20 that I have lined up. Some I have dates set up. Some I still have to ink in. But I definitely hope to have Maarten back when we have an idea of the future of the school and how that has transpired. Because I desperately want to know, as I mentioned in the video, it'd break my heart if it can't survive this. So I'm glad we can all pitch in with ideas at least and possibly connections. So I guess I'll conclude it there. I'm not seeing any other questions. Thanks so much to everyone for signing in, and this will repeat. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, my friends.
Yeah.
Thank you, Luther,
yes,
for organizing this second webinar, and thank you, Maarten, for sharing your success and unsuccess. Today, Saturday, I did not yet use the gas burner, neither the electrical dish. I made 3 Italian coffee. I have used 3 times the Italian coffee maker, in Prince 15 cooker in my home that I brought from India. And I have cooked the lunch for me, and the dinner is almost ready also. Okay.
Wow.
So
time to eat then.
In this moment, I am infected with the 2 viruses, with the coronavirus, but also with the solar cooking virus at this moment. But
Okay,
I hope tomorrow.
The first one, but not of the second one.
correct.
I hope tomorrow, not more infected with coronavirus, but I will remain infected with the solar cooking virus tomorrow and after tomorrow. So I would like to announce that 3 April, I am organizing again one console food webinar. It will be about solar baking with a French engineer, a French baker. His name is Arnaud Creteau. So it's free registration. So you send email to me, and I will send you the link. You can find my email address in the chat. But in July, we are going to run our 5th international conference, Console Food. So we are attracting again people from different parts of the world, okay? Some are coming to take part of the event face-to-face, but others are planning to attend online, okay? But we are trying to put groups. It will be good to have one room in Nepal, one group of 20 people or 30 people attending the webinar, connected to our room in Spain. We are and one group of people in Mexico, one group of people in India. So please contact me if you can coordinate one group in your country, in your place. We are trying to do it at the same time, everybody connected online. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And your email address and the conference and the webinar information are in the chat. And I have copied the chat. I've had difficulty sometimes, but I was able to copy this time, and it is saved when we record these webinars. So that will be available when I send out the next notice for the forum. Okay, that's it, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks again, everyone. And as I say, it will be repeated again tomorrow night. So what you just talked about, this whole conversation will be included in what we will re-air tomorrow night, Sunday night, our time, 7 o'clock in the evening. So find that world clock to know when it's being replayed if you know someone who needs to see it who wasn't able to make it. So again, thanks so much.
Okay,
And
all the best. See you next time.
See you next time.